Long before the first space marine drew breath or the astronomicon lit the void, Constantin Valdor emerged from the Emperor's gene labs beneath the Himalayan mountains. The process of his creation marked a watershed moment in human genetic engineering, as the Emperor poured unprecedented resources and attention into crafting what would become the template for all future custodians. The labs themselves were a maze of stainless steel and humming machinery, where banks of gene sequencers worked tirelessly to perfect the enhanced physiology that would define Valdor. His genetic code was manually optimized by the Emperor over thousands of iterations, with each sequence being refined until it achieved a level of stability that surpassed anything previously attempted. The base genetic material came from a child of Terra's wastes, though records of his original identity were purged so thoroughly that not even the most dedicated scholars of the custodian archives can find traces of who he once was. Unlike the crude but effective methods used to create Thunder Warriors, Valdor's enhancement process took place at the cellular level, with each organ and system being rebuilt from the ground up. The Emperor personally oversaw the integration of specialized organs that would later become standard in custodian physiology: the Praetorian plate gland that allows for conscious control over adrenaline production, the enhanced catalepsian node that permits operation without sleep for weeks, and the apex-grade healing implants that could knit together grievous wounds in hours. What set Valdor apart from later custodians was the experimental nature of his enhancement. The Emperor tested multiple approaches simultaneously, implementing backup systems and redundancies that would be streamlined out of later custodian templates for efficiency. This resulted in Valdor possessing capabilities that even his fellow custodians found remarkable. His reaction speed consistently tested 0.05 seconds faster than any other recorded custodian. His muscle density exceeded the normal parameters by 12%, and his cognitive processing speed allowed him to analyze combat scenarios with unprecedented clarity. The bond between Valdor and Malcador, the Sigillite, formed during these early days, as the Emperor's closest advisor would often be present during the enhancement procedures, studying the process and occasionally suggesting refinements based on his own vast knowledge of human genetics. Their relationship was initially one of mutual assessment, Malcador evaluating this new creation's potential, while Valdor sought to understand the role of this physically unimposing but incredibly powerful psyker in the Emperor's grand design. During his first year post-enhancement, Valdor spent countless hours in the Emperor's private scriptorum, absorbing knowledge through hypno-indoctrination and direct neural interface. He learned not just combat techniques and military strategy, but also philosophy, history, and the deeper truths about humanity's dark past that the Emperor deemed essential for his proto-custodian to understand. This education would prove crucial in shaping Valdor's worldview and his understanding of the vital role the custodians would play in humanity's future. The relationship between Valdor and the Emperor during this period was unique, more intimate than master and servant, yet not quite the paternal bond that would later develop between the Emperor and his primarchs. The Emperor would personally spar with Valdor in the training cages beneath the palace, fine-tuning his combat responses and testing the limits of his enhanced physiology. These sessions would sometimes last for days, with neither participant requiring rest, as the Emperor pushed his creation to adapt and evolve beyond his baseline capabilities. The successful completion of Valdor's enhancement process provided the template from which all future custodians would be derived, though none would ever quite match the complexity of his modifications. His genetic stability proved remarkable, while other enhanced warriors of the age, particularly the Thunder Warriors, suffered from degradation and mental instability. Valdor's systems showed no signs of deterioration or rejection. This stability would become a hallmark of all custodians, though the specific methods used in Valdor's case were never perfectly replicated. In terms of physical appearance, Valdor emerged from the enhancement process standing approximately 2.95 meters tall, with a physique that, while massive, retained a fluid grace that belied his enormous strength. His features were sharp and aristocratic, with deep-set eyes that seemed to absorb every detail of his surroundings. Even before donning the iconic golden armor of the custodians, his mere physical presence was enough to command attention and respect from those around him. The early combat trials of Valdor were conducted against groups of Thunder Warriors, where he demonstrated the superiority of his enhancement by consistently defeating multiple opponents simultaneously. His fighting style during these encounters showed a level of tactical awareness and precision that would become characteristic of the Custodian Guard. Every movement calculated, every strike decisive, with no energy wasted on unnecessary displays of strength or aggression. Following his initial trials, Valdor stepped onto the blood-soaked battlefields of Terra's Unification Wars. The Emperor bestowed upon him the title of Captain General, marking him as the first to hold this rank within the Legio Custodes. This position wasn't merely ceremonial. It came with the weight of commanding the growing numbers of custodians being created in the Emperor's laboratories, each one based on the template of Valdor's own enhanced physiology. The wars across Terra's fractured landscape provided countless opportunities for Valdor to demonstrate the effectiveness of custodian warfare doctrine. During the assault on the Auriok stronghold, Valdor led a strike force of merely 20 custodians against thousands of gene-enhanced defenders. His tactics involved precise deployment of his warriors in diamond formations that could rapidly reconfigure into offensive or defensive positions. The battle lasted 3 days, with Valdor's force systematically dismantling the Auriok's defenses layer by layer, targeting command nodes and supply lines rather than engaging in direct confrontations. In the campaign against the Ethnarch of the Caucasus Wastes, Valdor displayed his tactical acumen by orchestrating a complex series of feints and counterattacks. The Ethnarch's forces, notorious for their use of rad weapons and phosphex bombs, found their strongest positions undermined by careful infiltration tactics. Valdor himself penetrated the Ethnarch's inner sanctum, his golden armor stained with radioactive residue, and ended the warlord's reign with a single thrust of his guardian spear. The battle for the Pan-Pacific Empire stands out as particularly noteworthy. The Empire's techno-barbarian forces employed advanced weaponry salvaged from the dark age of technology, including gravity manipulators and chrono-distortion fields. Valdor adapted custodian tactics to counter these threats, developing the rotating point formation, where custodians would move in precisely timed patterns to avoid temporal disruption while maintaining offensive pressure. His personal kill count during this campaign exceeded 400 confirmed eliminations of enemy officers and specialists. However, it was the Thunder Warriors' purge that truly showcased Valdor's dedication to the Emperor's vision. The operation, known as the culling, required careful planning to eliminate these unstable but incredibly powerful warriors who had served as the Emperor's primary military force. Valdor recognized the necessity of this action. The Thunder Warriors' genetic instabilities made them a ticking time bomb, and their increasingly erratic behavior threatened the Emperor's unification efforts. The purge took place following the Battle of Mount Ararat, where the Thunder Warriors had achieved a significant victory. During the celebration feast, Valdor coordinated synchronized strikes across multiple gathering points. His custodians struck with surgical precision, targeting the Thunder Warriors' command structure first to prevent any organized resistance. The fighting was brutal and close-quartered. Thunder Warriors, even with their degrading bodies, possessed strength that could rival a custodian. Valdor personally engaged their leader, Gotha, in single combat. The duel lasted nearly an hour, with both warriors sustaining significant injuries before Valdor's superior conditioning and tactical awareness prevailed. Throughout the Unification Wars, Valdor refined and codified the custodian fighting philosophy. Unlike the berserker fury of the Thunder Warriors or the rigid discipline that would later characterize the Space Marines, custodian combat doctrine under Valdor emphasized adaptability and individual excellence within a coordinated framework. Each custodian was trained to function both as a supreme individual warrior and as part of larger tactical formations. The training regimens Valdor established were brutally efficient. In the depths of the Imperial Palace, he created specialized combat arenas that simulated various battlefield conditions. Custodians would train for weeks without rest, fighting through scenarios that pushed the limits of their enhanced physiology. Valdor insisted on a holistic approach to warfare. Custodians, under his command, were required to master not just combat techniques, but also strategy, psychology, and even philosophy. In the wastelands of what was once called Afghanistan, Valdor led a campaign against the gene cults that had taken root in the ancient mountain fortresses. These battles served as practical tests for his evolving tactical doctrines. The gene cults employed monstrous creations and forbidden technologies, forcing custodians to adapt their strategies constantly. Valdor's forces developed new techniques for vertical warfare in the mountainous terrain, including the use of jump pack assisted close quarters fighting in narrow mountain passes. The siege of the Malin Sen Confederacy provided another crucible for custodian tactics. The Confederacy's forces had fortified their positions with archaeotech shields and automated defense systems. Valdor developed the cascading assault pattern, where custodian units would attack in carefully timed waves, each wave exploiting gaps created by the previous one. This approach minimized casualties while maintaining constant pressure on enemy defenses. During this period, Valdor's relationship with his fellow custodians took on an interesting dynamic. While he maintained the professional distance necessary for a commander, he also served as a living example of what each custodian could aspire to become. His combat demonstrations in the training cages became legendary, with younger custodians studying recordings of his movements and techniques in minute detail. As Terra fell fully under the Emperor's control, Valdor's responsibilities expanded beyond military command and into the realm of genetic science. The Emperor granted him unprecedented access to the laboratories where the Primarch project was taking shape. These facilities, hidden in the deepest sections of the Imperial Palace, contained technologies and genetic samples that dated back to humanity's golden age. Valdor spent countless hours observing the development of the 20 Primarch specimens, each floating in their gestation capsules filled with nutrient-rich amniotic fluid. The security of these laboratories fell directly under Valdor's purview. He established multiple rings of defense, with trusted custodians standing guard at every access point. Each guardian was specifically chosen for their resistance to psychic influence, as the growing Primarchs were already exhibiting significant psychic signatures, even in their embryonic state. The laboratory complex itself was a marvel of engineering: vacuum-sealed chambers, radiation-proof walls, and automated defense systems that could respond to any breach within microseconds. During this period, Valdor worked closely with the Emperor and his chief geneticists, learning the intricacies of the Primarch project. His enhanced intellect allowed him to grasp complex genetic principles that would have baffled even the most accomplished scientists of the age. This knowledge proved crucial when the Primarchs were scattered across the galaxy by unknown forces. Valdor's understanding of their genetic makeup helped in identifying potential worlds where they might have landed. The recovery of each Primarch brought unique challenges. When Horus was found on Chthoniya, Valdor was among the first to meet him. The interaction between the Captain General and the future War Master was notably formal. Valdor maintained the professional distance that characterized custodian behavior, while Horus displayed the natural charisma that would later define his leadership. Their early conversations often centered around military strategy, with Valdor sharing insights from the Unification Wars. The discovery of Leman Russ on Fenris brought a different dynamic. Valdor found the wild-natured Primarch's approach to warfare initially concerning, particularly the lack of discipline among his tribal warriors. However, he recognized the raw effectiveness of the Fenrisian fighting style and worked to integrate some of its principles into the training regimens of the Space Wolves Legion, while maintaining the essential distinction between Astartes and custodian combat doctrines. Tension between the custodians and the emerging Legionese Astartes became apparent early in the Great Crusade. The fundamental difference lay in their respective approaches to warfare, where Space Marines fought as coordinated units with strong brotherhood bonds. Custodians operated as supreme individuals who coordinated their actions through tactical necessity rather than emotional connection. Valdor often had to mediate disputes between his custodians and various Legion commanders, particularly regarding matters of protocol and authority. The relationship between Valdor and the Proto-Legiones Astartes was particularly strained during the early compliance actions. Space Marine officers sometimes chafed under the oversight of custodian observers, viewing them as outsiders who didn't understand the bonds of brotherhood that defined Legion culture. Valdor addressed these concerns by implementing joint training exercises, allowing both forces to better understand each other's capabilities and limitations. The establishment of the Sisters of Silence marked another significant development in this period. Valdor recognized the potential of these null maidens as crucial allies in maintaining imperial security. He worked closely with Janisha Kroll, the first High Commander of the Sisters, to develop integrated combat protocols. The combination of custodian martial prowess and the Sisters' blank aura proved devastatingly effective against psychic threats. Joint operations between custodians and Sisters of Silence became more frequent as the Great Crusade progressed. During the compliance of the Nephilim worlds, Valdor personally led a combined force against Xenos Psychers whose powers had overwhelmed several Space Marine detachments. The battle tactics developed during this campaign would later become standard protocol for anti-Psyker operations throughout the Imperium. The relationship between the Custodians and Sisters of Silence evolved beyond mere military cooperation. Valdor established permanent liaison officers between the two organizations, ensuring smooth coordination and information sharing. The Sisters' Fortress on Luna became a regular destination for custodian delegations, where both groups would exchange intelligence and refine their combined tactics. Training exercises involving custodians and Sisters of Silence were particularly intensive. Valdor designed scenarios that pushed both groups to their limits, often incorporating elements that would challenge their respective strengths while covering each other's vulnerabilities. These sessions took place in specially constructed facilities that could simulate various battlefield conditions, from void combat to urban warfare. The discovery of Magnus the Red on Prospero presented a unique challenge for Valdor. The psychically gifted Primarch's powers were of particular concern to both the Custodians and Sisters of Silence. Valdor maintained careful surveillance of the 15th Legion's development, particularly their use of psychic abilities. His reports to the Emperor during this period contained detailed assessments of the potential risks and benefits of sanctioned Psyker use within the Legiones Astartes. As the Great Crusade expanded across the galaxy, Valdor's role as Captain General grew increasingly complex. His command of the Custodian Guard required constant refinement of their combat protocols. The training facilities beneath the Imperial Palace became testing grounds for new tactical approaches, with Valdor personally overseeing the implementation of advanced combat algorithms derived from both historical data and real-world experience. The Custodian combat doctrine under Valdor emphasized adaptability over rigid formation fighting. Each warrior was trained to process battlefield information independently while maintaining tactical coherence with their fellow custodians through sophisticated Vox networks integrated into their armor. Combat drills would often last weeks without interruption, with warriors rotating through different scenarios that tested both individual prowess and unit coordination. Valdor's personal weapon, the Apollo, represented the pinnacle of Imperial weapon crafting technology. The spear was forged in the depths of Mars, using techniques that combined traditional Terran metallurgy with Martian plasma fusion methods. Each component was handcrafted by the most skilled artisans of the Mechanicum under the direct supervision of fabricator General Kelbor Hall himself. The weapon's power field generator incorporated rare archaeotech components recovered from Dark Age vaults, allowing it to maintain a cutting edge hot enough to slice through Terminator armor. The spear's shaft contained microscopically precise circuitry that could respond to its wielder's neural patterns, adjusting its balance and power output in real time. The blade itself was forged from a unique alloy that included traces of materials found only in the core of dying stars, harvested during the earliest days of the Mechanicum's void exploration. When activated, the weapon's power field created a distinctive harmonic resonance that could be felt rather than heard, a sound that became synonymous with Valdor's presence on the battlefield. In the hierarchy of the Imperium, Valdor occupied a unique position, unlike the Primarchs, who were the Emperor's sons, or the various military commanders who served as his generals. Valdor stood as something between a supreme bodyguard and a trusted advisor. His relationship with Malcador, the Sigillite, was particularly nuanced. They often worked in concert, sharing intelligence and coordinating actions, yet maintained a professional distance born of their distinct roles in the Emperor's grand design. During strategic meetings, Valdor would stand guard while simultaneously participating in discussions, his enhanced mind capable of maintaining perfect situational awareness while engaging in complex tactical debates. His quarters in the Imperial Palace were positioned exactly halfway between the Emperor's private chambers and Malcador's sanctum, symbolic of his role as a bridge between the two most powerful figures in the Imperium. The weight of being the Emperor's confidant manifested in various ways. Valdor was privy to information that even the Primarchs were not trusted with: the true nature of the warp, the existence of ancient threats that still lurked in the dark corners of the galaxy, and the real purpose behind many of the Emperor's more controversial decisions. This knowledge required him to maintain a careful balance in his interactions with others, never revealing too much while ensuring that crucial information reached the right individuals at the right time. Valdor's position as keeper of the Emperor's secrets extended to the management of the Custodian Guard's own intelligence network. He established a system of information gathering that operated independently of both the Administratum and the emerging Officio Assassinorum. Custodian operatives moving in plain sight across Terra and beyond would report directly to him through secured channels that bypassed normal Imperial communication protocols. The training regime Valdor implemented for new custodians reflected his understanding of their true purpose. Beyond combat drills and tactical exercises, he instituted comprehensive education in history, philosophy, and statecraft. Each warrior was expected to understand not just how to fight, but why they fought, the deeper purposes behind the Emperor's actions, and the long-term implications of their role as guardians. In the rare moments when the Emperor would share his vision for humanity's future, Valdor stood as both witness and interpreter. His perfect recall allowed him to document these conversations in exact detail, creating a private archive of the Emperor's thoughts and plans. These records were kept in a secure vault deep within the Imperial Palace, protected by security measures that went beyond mere physical barriers, incorporating psychic wards and temporal locks. The burden of command manifested in Valdor's decision-making process. Each choice he made carried the weight of potential consequences that could affect the entire Imperium. His enhanced intellect allowed him to process countless variables, calculating probabilities and potential outcomes with machine-like precision while maintaining the human judgment necessary for effective leadership. Testing procedures for new custodian recruits became increasingly stringent under his oversight, with success rates dropping to less than 0.1% of candidates, ensuring that only the most exceptional individuals would join their ranks. His duties extended to oversight of the palace's defensive systems, a complex network of both obvious and hidden security measures. The outer walls housed automated defense platforms and void shields, while the inner corridors contained more subtle protections, gravitic anomaly generators, temporal distortion fields, and psychically reactive barriers. Valdor personally designed many of these systems, incorporating lessons learned from countless attempted breaches and assassination attempts. In combat simulations, Valdor would often face multiple custodians simultaneously, using these sessions not just for training, but to identify potential weaknesses in their combat doctrine. These matches would sometimes draw small audiences of high-ranking Imperial officials, though Valdor discouraged such spectating, preferring to maintain the practical nature of these exercises rather than allow them to become demonstrations. The first signs of discord among the Primarchs didn't escape Valdor's notice. His enhanced perception allowed him to detect subtle changes in behavior, micro-expressions, and linguistic patterns that others might miss. During a strategic meeting aboard Horus's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit, Valdor noticed the War Master's growing irritation at mentions of the Emperor's absence from the Crusade. The conversation, ostensibly about campaign logistics, revealed underlying tensions as Horus questioned the allocation of resources and authority. Valdor maintained detailed records of interactions between the Primarchs, noting the growing factions and alliances, Perturabo's increasing isolation, Angron's barely contained rage, and Lorgar's shifting theological perspectives all featured in his reports to the Emperor. The Night Lord's escalating brutality particularly concerned him. Their actions went beyond tactical necessity into the realms of purposeful terror, yet Kurz's legion faced minimal censure from the War Council. The relationship between Magnus and Russ drew special attention. Their fundamental disagreement about the use of psychic powers created a rift that widened with each passing year. Valdor observed how this discord spread through their respective legions, with battle brothers who had once fought side by side now viewing each other with suspicion and hostility. During the Council of Nicaea, Valdor served multiple roles. His official position was that of Chief Security Coordinator, overseeing a combined force of custodians and Sisters of Silence who secured the massive amphitheater. The venue itself was a marvel of ancient technology, with walls that shifted and reformed to accommodate the massive gathering of Space Marines, commanders, and support staff. Behind the scenes, Valdor coordinated a network of informants who monitored the reactions and private conversations of various factions. The debates at Nicaea were heated. Valdor stood guard as Magnus defended the use of psychic powers, his arguments passionate but increasingly desperate. The presence of the Sisters of Silence created an interesting dynamic, their null aura subtly affecting the psychically gifted among the attendees, perhaps influencing the tenor of the discussions. Valdor noted how Mortarian's arguments against Psykers seemed to gain more traction in this environment. The emperor's ruling at Nicaea carried implications that Valdor understood better than most. He had witnessed firsthand the dangers of unrestricted psychic power during the Unification Wars, yet also recognized the strategic advantage these abilities provided. His private communications with Malcador during this period revealed shared concerns about the impact of such a sweeping prohibition. The first hints of Horus's corruption manifested in subtle ways. Reports from custodian observers noted changes in the War Master's decision-making patterns. Operations that once showed tactical brilliance now displayed a concerning disregard for collateral damage. Horus's staff officers, once known for their precise record-keeping, began to show inconsistencies in their battle reports and requisition requests. Valdor established a separate intelligence network focused solely on monitoring the 16th Legion's activities. Custodian agents, disguised as administrative staff or support personnel, tracked supply chains, troop movements, and communication patterns. The data revealed troubling anomalies, unauthorized vessel movements, unaccounted periods in ships' logs, and unusual gatherings of high-ranking officers. In preparation for potential conflict, Valdor initiated several classified projects. Deep within the palace's sublevels, he established hidden armories stocked with weapons specifically designed to combat space marines. These included modified Adrathic weapons, sonic disruptors calibrated to space marine physiology, and specialized ammunition types that could penetrate Astartes' power armor. The defensive infrastructure of Terra underwent subtle modifications under Valdor's direction. Shield generators were upgraded, weapon emplacements were concealed within seemingly decorative architecture, and evacuation protocols were revised to account for various scenarios involving transhuman combat in urban environments. Each custodian received additional training in anti-Astartes warfare, with combat drills focusing on countering Space Marine squad tactics. The logistics of potential civil war required careful planning. Valdor created a complex network of hidden supply caches across Terra and the Sol system. Each cache contained enough resources to sustain a significant military force: ammunition, spare parts, medical supplies, and emergency rations. The locations were known only to select custodians, marked using a cryptographic system that changed daily. Contingency plans extended to the civilian population as well. Valdor developed evacuation procedures for key personnel, established secure communication networks independent of the Astronomicon, and created protocols for maintaining essential services during extended siege conditions. These preparations had to be conducted with utmost secrecy to avoid causing panic or alerting potential traitors to defensive capabilities. As tensions escalated, Valdor increased security around crucial Imperial infrastructure. The gene labs received additional protection, with new security systems incorporating both physical and psychic barriers. The Astronomicon's facilities were fortified with layered defenses, including automated response systems and dedicated custodian strike teams ready to deploy at a moment's notice. The sanction of Prosperos marked a significant escalation in the growing tensions within the Imperium. Valdor's role as commander of the censure host brought him into direct conflict with one of the Emperor's sons. The fleet assembled for this operation included not only Space Wolves vessels, but also a substantial contingent of custodian ships and silent sister cruisers, each modified with additional void shields and warp-resistant hulls to withstand the psychic storms that surrounded Prospero. Leading up to the assault, Valdor established a command structure that integrated the different forces while maintaining distinct chains of command. The Sisters of Silence were positioned strategically throughout the fleet, their null fields carefully calibrated to create overlapping zones of psychic dampening. Custodian strike teams were equipped with specialized anti-psyker gear, including neural disruptors and psi-reactive ammunition developed specifically for this campaign. The initial approach to Prospero revealed the first tactical challenge. The planet's automated defense systems remained dormant. Valdor recognized this as either a sign of Magnus's acceptance of punishment or, more concerning, a trap. He ordered the fleet to maintain a scattered formation, preventing any single psychic attack from disabling multiple vessels. The landing zones were selected to establish a strategic perimeter around Tisca, the capital city, with Sister of Silence Null Maiden units deployed first to establish psychic null corridors for the following forces. During the ground assault, Valdor personally led a custodian task force targeting the Thousand Suns primary library complexes. The buildings themselves presented unique challenges, architecturally impossible structures held together by psychic energy, corridors that shifted and changed as they advanced, and guardian constructs that could phase through solid matter. His force adapted their tactics, using Null Maiden support to stabilize the reality-warped environment and enable conventional military operations. The confrontation with Leman Russ occurred in the midst of the battle for Tisca's central pyramid. Russ, driven by executioner's zeal, pushed for immediate and total destruction of the city. Valdor, maintaining the Emperor's original directive for capture and censure, argued for a more measured approach that would preserve crucial knowledge and resources. The exchange between them was tense. Russ, standing amid the burning ruins, his armor covered in the dust of destroyed buildings and the blood of Thousand Suns warriors, while Valdor maintained his characteristic composed demeanor, Apollo's spear held ready, but not threatening. Their disagreement centered on interpretation of the Emperor's orders. Russ, wielding Malcador's orders as justification for extermination, faced Valdor's insistence on capturing Magnus alive. The Captain General's perfect recall of the Emperor's exact words stood against Russ's more aggressive interpretation. This discussion took place while psychic explosions lit up the sky and the sounds of urban warfare echoed through the streets of Tisca. The tactical situation grew more complex as the Thousand Suns' defensive positions began to collapse. Valdor coordinated with the Sisters of Silence to establish null fields around key targets, preventing both escape through sorcery and the corruption of valuable archives. His custodian teams moved through the city with precision, securing objectives according to a carefully planned priority system that balanced military necessity with preservation of knowledge. The capture of Magnus's libraries proved particularly challenging. Each collection was protected by layers of both physical and psychic defenses. Valdor's forces encountered everything from automated servitor guardians to time-locked vaults and spaces where the laws of physics simply ceased to function. The Captain General employed a methodical approach, using Sisters of Silence to nullify the most extreme warps in reality, while custodian teams secured each section. Within the libraries, Valdor found evidence of extensive research into forbidden knowledge. The collections contained not just tactical and scientific documents, but also dangerous texts dealing with warp entities and forbidden technologies. His enhanced intellect allowed him to quickly catalog and prioritize which materials needed immediate containment and which could be preserved for future study. Special stasis containers designed to contain both physical books and the psychic resonances they had absorbed were used to secure the most sensitive materials. The fighting through Tisca's scholastic quarter revealed the true extent of Magnus's preparations. Hidden vaults contained duplicates of crucial texts, and some libraries proved to be elaborate decoys, while the real repositories were concealed elsewhere. Valdor adapted his strategy, deploying scout teams equipped with archaeotech detection devices to locate the genuine archives among the duplicates. As the battle progressed, the interaction between Space Wolves, Custodians, and Sisters of Silence became increasingly strained. The Wolves' fury and desire for complete destruction clashed with the more surgical approach favored by Valdor's forces. The Captain General had to constantly balance maintaining military cohesion with preserving crucial archaeological and scientific data that might prove vital to the Imperium's future. The discovery of certain texts within Magnus's private chambers added another layer of complexity to the operation. These documents contained information about the Emperor's own research and experiments, knowledge that Valdor knew could not be allowed to fall into the wrong hands or be destroyed without consideration. His forces established a secure perimeter around these finds, keeping them separate from the general spoils of war, and even from the Space Wolves' oversight. The return to Terra following the Prospero campaign found the Imperial Palace already undergoing transformation into a fortress of unprecedented scale. Valdor's earlier contingency plans were now being implemented at an accelerated pace. The outer walls, already formidable, were reinforced with additional layers of ceramite and adamantium, while deep trenches filled with automated defense systems surrounded the perimeter. Each gate became a fortress unto itself, with multiple kill zones and overlapping fields of fire. Valdor established a layered defense strategy that divided the palace into distinct sectors, each capable of operating independently if cut off from central command. The inner sanctums housed specialized facilities, medici stations, ammunition manufactorums, and food production centers, ensuring each sector could sustain prolonged resistance. Underground tunnels connected these sectors, their layouts known only to select custodians, and designed to be collapsed at specific points to deny enemy advancement. The command structure during the siege reflected the complex nature of the defense. Valdor worked alongside Rogal Dorn, coordinating the deployment of custodian forces to complement the Imperial Fist's defensive positions. The partnership was pragmatic. Dorn's expertise in siege warfare, combined with Valdor's intimate knowledge of the palace's hidden defenses, created a formidable defensive network. Their command center, located deep within the palace, featured advanced hololithic displays showing real-time battlefield data from thousands of sensor arrays. Preparation for void warfare included the positioning of surface to orbit weapon platforms, disguised as architectural features. Valdor insisted on redundancy in all critical systems. Each defense battery had multiple power sources, and communication networks operated on several independent channels. The outer walls incorporated ancient technologies recovered from Dark Age vaults, including gravitic repulsion fields and chronometric disruption arrays. The first major engagement occurred at the Helios Gate, where Valdor personally led a counterattack against World Eater's berserkers who had breached the outer defenses. The fighting took place in a specially designed killing ground, a series of interconnected courtyards with adjustable gravity plates and automated turret systems. Valdor's tactical acumen showed in how he used the environment, activating and deactivating different defensive systems to fragment the enemy assault into manageable segments. During the battle for the Saturnine Gate, Valdor faced a particularly challenging situation when a group of traitor Mechanicum siege engines threatened to breach the inner courtyard. His solution involved flooding certain sections with radiation from the palace's ancient reactor systems, using the custodians' superior resistance to such hazards as an advantage. The tactic proved effective, forcing the traitor forces to either withdraw or suffer catastrophic damage to their mechanical components. Personal combat against traitor champions became an increasingly common occurrence as the siege progressed. A notable duel took place in the Hall of Lang, where Valdor confronted a former Luna Wolf captain who had been transformed by chaos into a towering monstrosity of ceramite and flesh. The fight lasted for hours, with both combatants demonstrating superhuman endurance. Valdor's Apollo Spear proved decisive, its power field eventually overwhelming the traitor's corrupted armor. The defense of the Sanctum Imperialis required particularly careful planning. Valdor established multiple false throne rooms, each protected by actual custodian guards to maintain believability. The real path to the Emperor was protected by psychic wards, null fields, and automated defense systems that responded to specific genetic markers. Even among the custodians, only a select few knew all the security protocols. As the siege intensified, Valdor found himself managing an increasingly complex web of alliances and responsibilities. The arrival of reinforcements from different loyalist legions required careful integration into the existing defense structure. Each group brought its own combat doctrine and chain of command, which needed to be coordinated without compromising the overall defensive strategy. The battle for the Lion's Gate spaceport demonstrated Valdor's ability to adapt tactics to changing circumstances. When Night Lord's infiltrators attempted to disable the port's void shields from within, custodian hunter-killer teams deployed through maintenance shafts, using specialized Auspex devices to track the infiltrators through their technological signatures. The engagement turned into a deadly game of cat and mouse through the port's massive infrastructure. Managing the defense of the palace's vast underground network proved particularly challenging. The ancient tunnels and chambers beneath Terra's surface became battlegrounds where custodians fought against traitor forces attempting to bypass the surface defenses. Valdor implemented a system of mobile defense teams that could rapidly respond to breaches, using their intimate knowledge of the tunnel network to ambush and eliminate infiltrators. A significant threat emerged when word-bearers, dark apostles, attempted to conduct ritual sacrifices to weaken the palace's psychic defenses. Valdor coordinated with the Sisters of Silence to create null zones at strategic points, disrupting the rituals and allowing custodian strike teams to eliminate the ritual sites. The operation required precise timing to prevent the rituals from reaching critical mass while avoiding friendly fire in the chaotic close quarters fighting. The strain on resources became increasingly apparent as the siege continued. Valdor implemented strict rationing of specialized ammunition and power cells for Guardian spears. Custodian armor damage had to be repaired using salvaged materials, and some of the more exotic weapons systems were reserved for critical engagements only. Despite these limitations, Valdor maintained the Custodians' effectiveness through careful deployment and tactical innovation. The aftermath of the Siege of Terra brought unprecedented challenges for Constantin Valdor. With the Emperor confined to the Golden Throne, the Captain General found himself navigating a radically different Imperium. The immediate cleanup operations demanded his attention as pockets of traitor forces remained scattered across Terra's surface. Valdor deployed his custodians in systematic sweeps through the ruined sectors of the palace, eliminating holdouts of World Eaters who had burrowed deep into the infrastructure and hunting down Alpha Legion operatives who attempted to blend in with the civilian population. The process of cataloging and securing compromised defense systems consumed vast resources. Valdor personally oversaw the assessment of breached vaults and repositories, particularly those containing Dark Age technologies that had been exposed during the fighting. His expertise proved crucial in identifying which systems had been corrupted by Chaos influence and required immediate destruction. Teams of custodians worked alongside the Mechanicum to dismantle tainted defense arrays and purge corrupted machine spirits from the palace's systems. The implementation of the Codex Custodes marked a significant shift in how the 10,000 operated. Valdor recognized that the post-heresy era required a different approach to protecting the Emperor. The document laid out complex protocols for rotating guards, maintaining vigilance against internal threats, and establishing new methods of screening those who sought audience in the throne room. Each custodian was assigned specific sectors and responsibilities, with overlapping jurisdictions to ensure no single point of failure could compromise the Emperor's security. The reorganization of Imperial defense presented unique challenges. Valdor worked closely with Rabut Guilliman to establish new command structures, though privately he harbored reservations about the Primarch's sweeping reforms. The Captain General insisted on maintaining certain autonomous powers for the custodians, ensuring they remained outside the traditional Imperial chain of command. This independence proved crucial during several incidents where suspected traitor sympathizers attempted to infiltrate Terra's rebuilt defense network. Daily operations within the palace took on a different character under the new protocols. Valdor established specialized teams of custodians focused on gathering intelligence from across the Imperium, creating an information network that complemented their martial duties. These teams worked in concert with what remained of the Sisters of Silence, maintaining a constant vigil against psychic threats that might exploit the Emperor's vulnerable state. The growing bureaucratization of the Imperium caused visible frustration in Valdor. Where once decisions could be made swiftly with the Emperor's direct guidance. Now, every action required navigation through layers of administrative oversight. The Captain General found himself spending increasing amounts of time in political meetings with the newly formed High Lords of Terra, defending the autonomy of the Custodian Guard against attempts to bring them under broader imperial oversight. Valdor's disillusionment became apparent in his handling of several key incidents during the early scouring. When a group of supposedly loyal Imperial Army officers attempted to gain access to the palace under diplomatic pretenses, his response was swift and final, ordering their execution without the previously customary investigations. This decisiveness drew criticism from some High Lords, but Valdor maintained that the security of the Emperor could not be compromised by political niceties. The recovery and secured storage of artifacts from the siege period occupied significant custodian resources. Valdor established new vaults deep within the palace complex, creating a layered system of physical and psychic wards to contain items of uncertain provenance. Each artifact underwent rigorous examination by teams of custodians trained in identifying chaos contamination, with Valdor personally overseeing the disposal of anything deemed too dangerous to preserve. Interactions with the remaining loyal Primarchs became increasingly strained. While Valdor maintained professional relationships with those who returned to Terra, his communications took on a more formal, distant tone. The Captain General's reports from this period reveal a growing concern about the Primarch's ability to maintain unity without the Emperor's direct guidance. He began implementing additional security measures around the Golden Throne, restricting access even to those who had once been welcomed freely. The transformation of the Imperial Palace into the fortress monastery it would become in later millennia accelerated under Valdor's direction. New training facilities were constructed in the deeper levels, incorporating lessons learned during the siege. The Captain General established specialized programs to ensure future generations of custodians would be prepared for the unique challenges of guarding a silent emperor, including extensive education in recognizing subtle signs of corruption and infiltration. Valdor's attention to detail in restructuring the Custodian Guard reflected his understanding of the changed circumstances. Training regimens were modified to emphasize individual initiative and decision-making, acknowledging that custodians could no longer rely on the Emperor's direct commands. The practice of maintaining individual names and personalities among the 10,000, rather than adopting a more regimented approach like the Astartes, was formally codified under his leadership. The establishment of new protocols for monitoring the Golden Throne itself became a primary focus. Valdor worked with the few remaining individuals who understood the ancient device's operation, creating detailed documentation of maintenance procedures and warning signs of potential malfunction. These protocols would later prove crucial in maintaining the throne's operation through the millennia that followed. The disappearance of Constantin Valdor sent shockwaves through the highest echelons of imperial authority. Records indicate that in the years following the establishment of the new imperial order, the Captain General became increasingly withdrawn from his public duties. Those who worked closely with him noted his growing preoccupation with ancient texts recovered from the Emperor's private libraries, particularly those concerning the Dark Age of technology and certain redacted events from the Unification Wars. The last confirmed sighting of Valdor in the Imperial Palace occurred during a routine inspection of the throne room's outer defenses. Guards reported that he carried with him several artifacts from his personal chambers, including his signature spear, Apollo, and a collection of sealed documents bearing the Emperor's personal ciphers. The following morning, his quarters were found empty, with specific items missing, namely several data crystals containing classified information about the Emperor's earliest works and a set of coordinates whose significance remains unknown. Various theories emerged about Valdor's destination. Some custodians believed he embarked on a secret mission authorized by the Emperor himself before his internment on the Golden Throne. Others suggested that his disappearance connected to the mysterious project known as the Yellow King, a term found scratched into the margins of several texts in his personal library. Inquisitorial records from the period mention unusual warp disturbances in the segmentum obscurus coinciding with his departure, though any direct connection remains speculative. The impact of Valdor's absence manifested in subtle ways throughout the Imperium. The Custodian Guard underwent significant internal reorganization, with new protocols established to prevent any single individual from accumulating the same level of authority he had held. Several sealed vaults within the Imperial Palace, accessible only to Valdor, remained unopened, their contents becoming the subject of intense speculation among the 10,000. Investigations into his whereabouts by both the Custodian Guard and elements of the Inquisition revealed a pattern of preparation spanning several decades before his disappearance. Reports surfaced of remote outposts established in various sectors, supplied with advanced technology and staffed by individuals whose records had been meticulously erased from Imperial databases. These installations, discovered years after his departure, showed signs of precise planning and execution characteristic of Valdor's methodical nature. The significance of Valdor's departure extended beyond the immediate practical concerns of Imperial security. His absence created a void in the intricate network of relationships between the Custodian Guard, the High Lords of Terra, and the various power brokers of the Imperium. The loss of his direct connection to the Emperor's earliest days removed a crucial link to the wisdom and knowledge of the Great Crusade era. Recent developments in the 41st millennium have reignited interest in Valdor's fate. Reports from the Pariah Nexus describe encounters with a figure matching his physical description, though altered by unknown means. These accounts mention a warrior in ancient custodian plate, bearing weapons of inexplicable sophistication, leading groups of heavily augmented operatives on missions of unclear purpose. While many dismiss these sightings as impossible given the passage of time, others point to the Emperor's unique modifications of Valdor's physiology as potential explanation for his longevity. The discovery of abandoned facilities bearing the mark of the Yellow King has intensified speculation about Valdor's current activities. These sites contain evidence of extensive research into human enhancement technologies, combining elements of both Dark Age science and techniques pioneered during the creation of the Custodians. Mechanicum exploratory teams have reported finding laboratories filled with stasis chambers and experimental apparatus. their purpose unknown, but bearing hallmarks of the Emperor's own work. Inquisitorial investigations have uncovered a possible pattern to these facilities, suggesting they form part of a larger network spread across the galaxy. Each installation appears to serve a specific function in what some theorize to be a vast, long-term project. The sophistication of their security systems and the complexity of their encrypted data stores indicate the work of someone with intimate knowledge of the Emperor's most advanced technologies. The most compelling evidence of Valdor's continued existence emerged from the edges of the Dark Imperium. Warriors bearing modified custodian weapons and armor have been observed engaging Chaos forces in precise, targeted operations. Their tactics show an understanding of anti-chaos warfare that predates current Imperial doctrine, harkening back to methods employed during the earliest days of the Great Crusade. Certain factions within the Inquisition maintain that Valdor's disappearance connects to a larger plan, possibly set in motion by the Emperor himself. They point to correlations between his known areas of study before vanishing and subsequent developments in Imperial history. The timing of various technological discoveries and the emergence of certain defensive capabilities within the Imperium suggest the influence of an unseen hand guiding human development along a predetermined path. The possibility of Valdor's return has generated considerable debate among Imperial scholars. Some believe his reappearance would herald a new phase in humanity's fight for survival, bringing with him knowledge and capabilities preserved from the Emperor's time. Others warn that after millennia of absence, any being claiming to be Valdor would require careful scrutiny, given the Imperium's experience with deception and infiltration. The term King in Yellow itself has become a subject of intensive study. References to this title appear in fragments of pre-imperial literature and certain encrypted messages dating back to the Unification Wars. Some scholars suggest it represents a role or function rather than a mere title, possibly connected to the Emperor's original plans for humanity's evolution. The repeated appearance of this phrase in relation to Valdor's activities has led to speculation about its significance in whatever mission he undertakes.